So what are we chatting about?
Good evening, good day, good morning to everyone, wherever you are. My name is Patrick, and Blues Down Under is back with the Mancunian Way. We're back for 2026, guys. It's been a while, hasn't it?
It has.
Yeah. We've all got excuses, but there's too many to go through, isn't there?
Yeah, and cricket.
Is it February already?
Yeah. Last time we were on, we were talking about Ashes lost, and now we can talk about people making early exits from World Cups instead.
Well, someone told me
when we were last together, though,
someone told me we'd been off the T20 to win the Ashes, mate. I'll take that any day of the week. Yeah. Anyway, for those of you that are new here, because if anybody doesn't remember, Blues Down Under was a midweek segment we had going for the second half of last calendar year, but we are back in the chair now and hoping to get this back on a regular basis now. In terms of other regulars, Governor is still over in Manchester, so big up to him, mate. I hope you're enjoying the time back in the motherland. But seeing as we're back here now, obviously got a lot to talk about. It's been a very busy few weeks or few months, you want to call it, the world of Manchester City. But look, Mako, it's always good to see you again, mate. Good to have you back in the chair. But thought I might quickly get your thoughts on the weekend with Newcastle. And Rich, I know you weren't able to do the review on Sunday, but I'll get your thoughts and how was this performance to you, and what are your thoughts looking forward now, given the fact that we are right on Arsenal's apron strings, basically?
Well, you said it, Pat. We're chasing, and we're getting closer and closer. But it's still a long, long way to go. I think when we were last together, Rich, you said we were still on for a double. I said we'd be top of the league by 6th of March, so you never do know. Yeah. But at the weekend, I mean, follow on from the Liverpool game, I thought the press and the energy, enthusiasm throughout the team was amazing in that first half against Newcastle. I thought there was a couple of really standout performances. For me, obviously, O'Reilly just popping up when he was needed, absolutely stepping up to the plate, a very accomplished young man. And the other one for me, he's not scoring like he was. He's not having the rub of the green, but geez, he put in a shift, and that was Haaland. He's back there defending at the death. And when the final whistle went, he just lay down on the floor like he died. But, there was a lot of chat afterwards to say, oh, same old second half. We sat back. We did this. We did that. We didn't make the most of our chances. We're not putting the chances away in the second half. But you know what? if you want 4, 5, 6-0 every game, you're not getting it this season, but we're still grinding out the results. So I'm pretty happy based on...
Yeah, our treble, people don't remember, but our treble season was based on us chilling out in the second half. We basically would get 2 or 3 up,
similar
and then we just, the 4 in a row, then we'd just close the game down, and we'd be constantly reserving energy for May or April. When you need your fitness, when you need your energy. So I thought we barely gave away a chance against Fulham or Newcastle second half, which is exactly what we want. So I've got no complaints about it. I didn't understand the meltdown earlier on against like Leeds and Fulham, Brighton, etc. When we were having bad second halves, we were giving away 10 chances in the second half. Newcastle didn't really have a chance. And in fact, the only goal Newcastle scored was very, very lucky. Boot it into a crowd of players and it gets a deflection and goes in. I mean, so I think there was meltdowns in Fulham and Newcastle about the second half performance that were just silly. I thought they were based on a narrative that didn't actually happen in those games.
I've got to say, if we look at the 2 halves, and I've already said what I needed to say a few days ago, but I looked at that first 45 minutes and I thought that was, in parts, that was actually a really good showcase of the Premier League. Two really good, relatively informed teams at the moment, having a go and and actually playing a bit end-to-end football there at times as well. And then, I think we laughed on our group chat saying the second half became more like an MMA match, to be honest. But I looked at that second half in a way, and I don't know if you guys agree with me, but I did say that I felt like Pep almost put Eddie Howe into a false sense of security in a way where he was actually quite willing to give up the possession. And I think he sort of played a reverse psychology game in a way where Eddie Howe was probably not expecting that. But also, too, now that he's got that in his hands, he's like, well, I've never had this before against the Pep squad or when I played against Pep. And now I don't really know what to do with it. I also think, too, in part, I do think that the midweek trip to Azerbaijan did play a little bit of a factor as well, because some of those players did start looking a little bit leggy from about 70, 75 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought Newcastle did really well. I thought they'd be a lot leggier than they were. They had some good players missing, and I thought they did well. But honestly, I just kind of felt that we had them, under control. And if they had got a goal, I think we'd have probably, maybe we'd have got nervous like early games, or maybe we would have just put our foot down when they got a lucky goal against us. We turned around and restored our lead pretty quickly. So I never felt that they were going to score.
I was happy to see.
Even till the 90th minute, I thought we were going to score again. I never felt Newcastle were going to score.
I was happy to see Anthony Gordon.
Is there elements of these? Sorry, mate.
I was happy to see Anthony Gordon go off, to be honest, because he always looked dangerous for me. Not on the end product, but he was causing us problems.
Talk about Anthony Gordon, because he was giving Diaz some headaches. Do you think Diaz would have been subbed even if he didn't have that yellow card at the end of the first half? Because I think that would have been technically done regardless of yellow.
I think it suited Kusanov to play like that. That's his superpower, is his pace and his aggression, and I think especially when the players are starting to tire, it was a good move. He was able to stop them breaking in the second half, and Diaz was protected on his yellow card. And I think we're going to have to think about the yellows, because I think Bernardo's he must be one yellow from a ban, a couple of week ban. So we're going to have to work out. Yeah,
if he gets 2 in the next 5 games, he'll get a 2-game ban.
The
question is, they'll probably want him to miss one of the cup games and one league game. So he might be sensible if he goes and gets a deliberate yellow soon, so that we've got him back for, because we don't want to be without him against Arsenal in the league, or probably Chelsea away. We don't want to be without him.
Do you think he's due for a rest? Because I feel like he's been playing quite a lot lately. Although, let's be honest, we've just had back-to-back nearly 7-day breaks. So I suppose all the players had some sort of rest in a way,
Yeah, if you're going to give him a rest, get him to get his yellow card before you give him the rest. Then you've used one of the games up.
Yeah,
get his ban out of the way, and then he can play the last 6-7 games if we need him to.
There we go. Martin can't spell Stooges.
Yeah.
Yeah. And get the mods in the chat. You know what to do. Thank you.
Bernardo's good at a tactical yellow. Like, I mean, he got that one. He got that one before Bodo glimpsed completely deliberate. He's like, I don't want to go up to the Arctic Circle.
Well, it doesn't matter because we could be playing him in about a month's time, in less than a month's time.
Yeah.
So who would you say, mate? Real Madrid or Bodo, eh?
Yeah. Look, seeing as this is our first BDU back in a few months and that, I thought, Mac, I'll get your thoughts about, because I think last time we had the show on, we were, a bit, question marks about our defense, question marks about our midfield, when were players going to return with injuries and things like that. But I've got to say that, starting the new year, there were there were even more question marks than what we had, when we were all chatting together. But what's really turned it around? I know I probably a bit of a rhetorical question, but obviously Anfield was a huge factor. But is there anything else particularly that's really stood out for you? Just sort of,
I reckon it's
in
so
a way,
obvious.
What's really sort of turned around for you?
Gahey, he is class. He's calm under pressure. He's a good decision maker. He uses confidence. He gives the back line confidence. When Kuzanov comes and stands next to him, it's like they're fearless. I think that could be one of our greatest signings. This fella, if he could go strength to strength. So for me, I've said it all season. We haven't defended well, and if you don't defend well, you're not going to win a league. So maybe we've turned it around at this point in time. Because even Diaz, I love Diaz, but he just looked like he was struggling. I don't know whether it was the weight of the responsibility or just, there was a lot going on. And he looked a different player for me. But bring this lad in, and he's looking fine. And we're getting caught on the break because we defend such a high line. It's untrue. But we're riding our luck a little bit, I still think like 5 points is it's a big gap. You might prove me wrong in the next 2 weeks, but it's a big gap. And if I'd rather be in Arsenal's position than our position at the moment. Everyone's saying it's Arsenal's to lose now. But it's, they've got to come to us, but we've got to beat them when they come to us. So I'd like us to be able to smash them at Wembley. But obviously we're going to be without Gay for that. So it'll be interesting to see what it looks like. So smash them at Wembley, smash Newcastle in the cup, just smash everybody and take that at least a double, Rich. At least a double.
Yeah. No, and I think, the one thing we've seen in the games that Kusanov's played in the last month or so, that I think he's played 9-10 games now in this sort of January, February run. And I think we've seen that he has got the physicality of Walker. So I must admit, and I think, I've banged on about it for 2 years, so I'll keep banging on, but I always like having 3 proper defenders at the back. And I do think now with Sangay, we've got the real option of, and Kuzanov's come good, we've got the real option of going Gvardiol left back, with, say, Gay and Diaz, or we've got an option of going, Kuzanov right back with Gay and Gvardiol, or Diaz and Gvardiol. So we've got an option really to, in the big games, to go with, instead of 2, can't say fullbacks can't defend, because Nunes has improved a lot as a defender. He's improved a lot as a defender. Is he elite in a massive game? Probably not, but he's improved more than any of us thought he would. And I know he's underrated as a defender. I mean, he's obviously known for his attack, but he showed a number of times since he's come back from the AFCON, he's got himself fit, that he is a very solid defender. Yeah. So
he defends better than Cancelo, let's be honest, Rich.
Yeah. Much better than Cancelo.
That's always an upgrade.
In terms of both his physicality and his understanding of the defensive job. But I think now that just gives us, with Gvardiol and Kusanov, we've got players who can play right centre-back or left centre-back, can go out to play full-back. And I think it gives us a lot more tactical options. You know, I have to say I want to see Nico stay in midfield because, you know, I was singing his praises Thursday night chat last week. I mean, someone was saying he's still coming through. I think, you know, in getting close to, you know, my lifetime, the most impressive youth product coming through, because I saw brilliant youth players like Lake and Redmond, David White, but they were coming through into a mid-table relegation promotion kind of team. So they weren't up against world-class players at the top playing for their place. And I think Foden came in, but Foden came in and he was dripped in over 2-3 seasons, you know, 3-4 seasons even. Nico O'Reilly's come in and he's pretty much made himself a starter within
in comparisons,
months.
He's hit the ground running.
In
comparisons to Phil, absolutely, yeah.
And not just starting in one position, starting in multiple positions. And he's now gone into midfield. And at Anfield, I thought he was phenomenal up at St James's Park in the Cup when he went into midfield and we're lacking. And I think he offers us something exceptional there. I think who was it was talking about? I think it was Tony Cascarino I saw on YouTube saying he's 6'3". You know, he's not. He's big. He's imposing. He's fast. He's strong. But he's technically good. He can finish.
It's his football brain for his age is what impresses me the most.
Yeah,
Rich.
he is. He has absolutely everything. And I tell you, if I was Tommy Tuchel, then I'm looking at a player there who I can take to the World Cup. He can play. You know, he could play centre back if he had to. If you had an emergency in the pitch, he could play left back, left midfield. He can play centre midfield. He can play attacking midfield. He showed with his finishing, which were two. He's in the last couple of weeks. He's 3 or 4. Well, 4 I think he's got in recent weeks. Proper finishes. Yeah, like that header. Yeah. That header is a better header than Erling does. That header was just
the first goal too. He had to control that while the ball was slicing away from him too.
Yeah,
that takes incredible control. Like, like the only other person who has a fleet of left foot is our co-owner.
Yeah, and the finish the week before, on the when he takes that on his left and he just smacks it in. He's got everything that you need in a footballer, and I tell you, it's probably a good thing for the world that he doesn't play for United, Arsenal, Liverpool, because the hype that would be going on in those places if they had a player doing what he's doing. I mean, they'd be writing off Messi and Ronaldo as history already if they had a player. And I think, I think he's incredible, and I think he could be our number 8 for, as long as he wants. If he keeps going in the trajectory, it's incredible.
You look at some of his gameplay and reading of games as well too, and I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but I get this sort of similar sort of vibe in a way where he sort of reads the game in kind of in a way like a young Gundogan in a way. I mean, nobody read a game the way Gundogan read a game, especially when it came to being in the right place, right time, especially around the in attacking positions. Yeah. But Nico O'Reilly is picking it up so well. Yeah, it kind of makes me wonder that maybe last season he must have learned a little bit from Gundogan from that one season return that he had basically.
Yeah, and I think
maybe he's taken some of that into his game this season.
Yeah. He's playing with Rodri and Bernardo, 2 of the smartest footballers of the last decade. Yep. 2 of the smartest footballers to play in the Premier League.
Do you think KDB leaving has given him a bit more liberty as well?
Well, because
I think if Kevin was still there, I don't think he would have had as many opportunities and probably not as much sort of free roam around the midfield either.
Yeah, I don't know, but maybe he learned from KDB. For me, the problem is, I kind of, in the mind, think of KDB as leaving after the treble because he hardly played for the 2 seasons after. So in a way, would KDB have kept him out? No, because KDB would have probably been injured as he was last season and the season before, he would have still seen him in training. He would have still talked to the young lads. So that's spooky.
I didn't even touch it, and the thing just crapped itself. I'm fine now. I'm fine.
Yeah.
Doing some paranormal. all the
it's probably
folks.
Nico O'Reilly. He's so good.
He's watching.
No, you don't. The Phantom, yeah. No, you see him. No, you don't.
Yeah.
We're talking about injuries too. I wanted to also get you because you mentioned about Aït-Nouri and Gahey and that. And I was just looking at just going forward, like obviously, we have to make do with what we've got, with Gvardiol being out probably till the end of the season. But going forward for future seasons, and you look at that depth that we have now in sort of like the left-sided defense, and I'm not really including Nico O'Reilly, although we know he can do a job there. But going forward, do you see the idea of Gvardiol being sort of just every match day a constant rotational piece between left centre back and left back, knowing full well that we know Aït-Nouri's starting to show as good as what he was, or even better than what he was when he was at Wolves. Mark Gahey has just gone leaps and bounds, and we have every reason to suggest that he's going to continue that into next season. Do you see Gvardiol? Where do you see if Gahey was in the form that he was in now, let's say in 12 months' time? Where do you see Gvardiol? Where do you see Gvardiol coming in with that? Because we all know he's done left back and he's done a great job at it too.
I'd pick Gvardiol over any other defender. I think Gvardiol is, I think he's potentially going to be the best centre back in world football. So I wouldn't drop Gvardiol for Gahey. I might consider, Gahey can play right centre back. So, I think that's an option. I think Gvardiol sometimes at centre back his talent is wasted because he's such a good footballer. He can go and play as a left of three. And honestly, I'd probably be saying, how can we try and play a three at the back? How can we finally crack that? Because I think in Gvardiol, Gahey and Diaz, or Gvardiol, Gahey and even more so Kuzanov, you've just got the perfect defence. And I wouldn't want to leave, I think Gahey's enough now, you don't want to leave him out, but I wouldn't leave Gvardiol out of any big match. I think Gvardiol's a phenomenal player.
It's a nice problem to have, isn't it? A nice rotation, that would be.
Yeah.
And we've got a fair bit of pace there as well. That's what I like.
Yeah, I wonder if Gvardiol could go. I wonder if Gvardiol's a good enough footballer to go into midfield. Maybe Gvardiol goes further up. I don't know.
Well, if we're going to talk about any defenders about going into midfield, it probably would be, and I know he's obviously out on loan at another club right now, but Pep has alluded in past interviews that he wants to eventually get Vitor Reis into the squad and possibly maybe even look at trying to utilize him into like an alternate six role, maybe even a future prime John Stones sort of role, kind of similar there too. And I don't know, Mako, if you've seen anything over the last few weeks, but obviously the hype for Vitor Reis has gone through the roof at the moment, given the performance he had against Barcelona and the fact that he's been huge in terms of getting Girona well and truly out of the relegation zones in La Liga too. So a lot of promise there for the kid, but I don't know. I think, do you get the feeling that maybe when John Stones and Nathan Ake are out of the picture, there'll obviously be a lot more opportunities for him? I think just once those two are out of the way, I think it doesn't necessarily clear a path for him, but it certainly makes we have a better, clearer understanding of like where the defensive depth is going to be in the squad, basically.
It also brings him into the group, because at the moment, for all the facts that we've all loved Johnny Stones, I think his time is nearing the end, isn't it? And so that
we're already starting to plan the farewell.
Where
Maka, so you are welcome to join us wherever Rich and I go.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we need the Cagouls.
Yeah, Stones.
Yeah,
Cagouls zipped up to the top.
Yeah, all the way to the top. Yeah.
But mate, I just coming back to your point on O'Reilly. What is a good comparison that, Rich, in terms of those that remember Lakey when he was coming through, the ability to play anywhere and help to dictate the game, and just look comfortable. A good footballer just looking comfortable, and the echoes of potentially could go to the World Cup this time around. It's amazing that we're thinking about he's potentially going to get a spot on the plane there. It'd be magnificent if he does, because then all the City fans can support England a bit better with more City players playing.
And you think England with that depth on the left defence now, they can use Lewis Hall and Nico O'Reilly if they want to in matches, and I think that's some fantastic depth that you're going to have going into that tournament in a few months' time.
Well, it's good. It's good to have players, and I guess you kind of have this a bit with Reece James on the right, or even Arnold, in that if England went to the World Cup with Lewis Hall and Nico O'Reilly and say Arnold and what's his name? Oh, I just said Reece James. They would have four top fullbacks, but all four of them could almost go and play other positions if they needed to. All four of them offer you, you'll have an extra centre back from Reece James because he can go there if he needs to. You'll have an extra couple of midfielders from O'Reilly and Arnold. So you'll actually and offering different things. So many ways they're perfect pet footballers, And I think if you go with a squad to the World Cup, having pet footballers who can play multiple positions is brilliant, because if you get an injury, you're not suddenly reliant on one player. You might have two players who can go there because you've got that flexibility. And I think those players offer that.
True enough, mate. True enough.
No, it's a good shout. It's a good shout. But look, good to be back on the show. But obviously, I think guys, we're just chewing a bit of fat here and just seeing what's good anyway. But anything else taking your fancy? I mean, obviously, we've got a few days before we have Leeds to look forward to. But I don't know, do you agree with what Martin's been saying over the last couple of weeks, where he thinks that this might be a bit more of a banana skin than Newcastle? Because it is at Ellen Road. I think if it was at home, it might be a different story. But Ellen Road might be a little bit of a factor, especially if
mate,
Leeds get an
fighting for the line.
I still think the Chelsea and Arsenal games, which I think they come one after the other, or they're 2 or 3 games. I think they're the real. I think they're the two. I think if we can win at Stamford Bridge, and I'm not even sure we have to beat Arsenal. I think we probably have to not lose to them. I think Arsenal beat us, then they're massive favourites for the league. But I think those 2 games, if we beat Arsenal and Chelsea, I think we win the league. But those are 2 hard games. Martin seemed to take Chelsea for granted. I'm not quite so sure. They're fighting for top 5. That's
exactly,
and they've got a lot of good footballers. I think they got the best out and out number 6 in the game, which is good against a team like us who rely on the attacking midfield. So I think that's not going to be easy. And I think we're going to have to prepare ourselves against Arsenal for a real John Fashanu, Dennis Wise, Eric Young style, just smashing us with long throws, with dead balls, organised. I think that won't be easy.
Yeah, it's amazing to see the whole of England suddenly in our court now, because they all just want to see Arsenal fail because they want to see the meltdown. Yeah. I know outside of Stretford, it seems everyone wants us to win.
Yeah. You know why it is though? Like, Arsenal fans have been so like the Scousers, and apologies any Everton fans, but I'm talking about the Red Scousers, not Scousers in general. But the amount of celebrating their title in December and January, the amount of going on about how they've got the best manager in the world, the best team in the world, the best squad in the world. Like, it's one thing I think we've caught a lot of illnesses, City fans, with the meltdowns and the drops and everything whenever we lose 2 points and just totally over the top. But one thing I've not seen any City fans seem to catch is that kind of arrogance from Arsenal and Liverpool, where they tell you in December and January and November that they're best in the world. Like, for me, you keep your gob shut until May. Yeah. And then you quietly make your point. But
dancing in December, crying in May.
Yeah. Well, and if I see another bloody picture of which of these 4 should stand up for Arteta, or comparing Arteta to Klopp and Pep and Ancelotti and Ferguson and Bob Paisley and whoever, or even
Shankly and all.
To be honest, if you're going to do that, you might as well replace Arteta with Eddie Howe, because Eddie Howe's probably done more in less time.
Well, no, Eddie Howe's won a cup. Eddie Howe's.
What I'm saying is he's done more with that team in less time.
Yeah, and you got to remember, Arteta is the 3rd longest serving manager in all 4 divisions. now.
Wow.
So he has, you know, I think the only I think Pep's 2, and I think unless he's been fired in the last few weeks, Harrogate Town's manager is the longest. But to be fair, his dad's owns the club, so he's got a job quite safely. But yeah, I think Arteta needs to win multiple league titles before Arsenal fans should be talking about him.
Yeah. Rich, you want to talk about what some of the things that Liverpool fans have said over recent years? It's in a way people want to compare what Arsenal fans have said, and it's like, look, with all due respect, but some of the wild things Liverpool have said, at least they've had the managers and the players to back it up by actually winning stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think
that's why Arsenal's is more ridiculous, because it just had nothing to back up the talk.
I've gone on record saying I think Liverpool's side in 18-19 is the second best side the Premier League's ever had after City's side at that time. I reckon that team was a better team than that Liverpool side through 17 to 20 was a better side than any side apart from Pep City at that time.
Oh, but I'd say any of Klopp's squads from 2017 up until Klopp left were better than anything Arsenal's had over the last 3 or 4 years.
No, boys, Invincibles, the greatest ever Invincibles.
Invincibles would have finished 20 points behind that City.
You're not wrong, mate.
20 draws. That you couldn't draw a game. It was nothing. It wasn't about not losing. That season, it was about you couldn't bloody draw a game.
Yeah, exactly.
You had to. I mean, what was it? 32 wins or something for City and 31 wins for Liverpool. Nuts. Was it 33? 33 and 32. I can't quite remember.
I made this dancing at Christmas and winning the league at Christmas. You remember being at City the last couple of games of the season and people start singing we're going to win the league, and everyone's like shh, shh, until about 20 minutes before the end of the season, no one was singing it.
My best memory of that 13-14 season was cheers just being absolutely rammed with Liverpool fans after they beat us 3-2 at Anfield, and just going to win the league. Actually, they were singing it from when Sterling scored the first goal for them about 10 minutes in.
Do you know what I remember?
And then even then after the game, I went across the street to where it's now an ANZ Bank, I think it is, but it used to be a Burger King. I went there for a late night feed, and they're still singing it for half an hour after the game. Walked back out, and a few of the old sweats from their group, really, really lovely guys, shook hands. And they said, "We can't sing with that. It's not even close to over." And then, sure enough, 2-3 weeks later, they obviously Slippy G and have the meltdown at Palace away and
Palace.
Just how quickly things change.
You know what though? My funniest memory about the way City fans are was that season when we were playing West Ham, and we're 2-0 up in the second half, and we were in the Piedmont Bridge Hotel. I guess the Scousers were in there. We're in the Piedmont Bridge Hotel, and at about 88 minutes, some City fans in the ground started singing Championes, and they just got shushed, and they got shut up. And everyone went quiet.
Didn't a few people start singing Championes, and then another area of the South End started singing sit down, shut up, sit down, shut up.
Exactly. 2 minutes to go.
And then when they put the thing up for I think it was 4 minutes, from about the first 2 minutes, everyone's nervous. Yeah. And then with about a minute and a half to go, obviously the ground relaxed.
Very faint little.
They can't get 2 goals, and they started singing a bit. And then by the time we're into the final minute, they start singing Championes and start enjoying it. But it was none of this celebrating when you're clear at Christmas, or celebrating because you're top on January the 1st. You wait until deep into injury time in the last game when you've got at least a 2-goal cushion, then you can probably sing. And look at United, they sang Championes. They sang Championes at the Stadium of Light, and you're not. Yep. You're not until you are.
Rich, I've got to say, my funniest memory from that night at the PBH was I remember there was one guy who turned up in an Adam Johnson shirt. And I remember he just said, "Are you sure you want to be wearing that?" And he's like, "I don't care."
Sure it wasn't. He should have just said it was Michael Johnson.
Yeah, probably. Although it was number 11, I can't remember if Michael Johnson wore 11.
Yeah. Probably not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was mad.
Yeah. No.
And a nice little touch this week when I think we went 1-0 up, and the whole of the north, all the south stands singing 1-0 to the empty seats. Because all we've heard for weeks, you can tell we're doing well again, because all you're hearing is empty seats and 115 rearing its head again. So they're doing everything they can just to upset the little apple cart. So
I saw those
seats was a classic with about when we scored
20th minute.
Oh yeah, the first one was about the 12th minute or something, wasn't it? 14th minute, I think.
Was it that early?
Yeah, 14th, and then we'll 2-1 up after about 25 minutes. Yeah, so all three goals were scored in about a 10 minute spell.
Yeah, and I thought it was funny. I mean, but I was having this United fan going on about you think I'm just like we played 9 or 10 home games in a period of 2 months in Jan and Feb when United had 4 at home. United are basically like a gridiron team. They're playing a 1 game a week season. Like every football match we're playing. Us and the Scousers and Arsenal are playing 2 games for every 1 game United play. So I think United nailed for the top 4 now because they've got twice or 3 times as long to prepare for every game. They're not going to have injuries. They're not going to have tired players. So it's been absolutely set up for them. I mean, being so rubbish, you're out of every cup by January. It's going to actually prove to be a blessing in disguise for Carrick. I think so too. Someone like us would be in a meltdown if we were out of every cup. But I think for them, it'll get them the top 5 place that they need. Financially, unfortunately. So,
I had it with a United fan on Sunday morning, and I just said to him, "Well, you had a full house at Grimsby, and you had a full house at home to Brighton. So well done. No more cup games where you're going to have anything but empty seats."
Yeah, after the day 2 at the Sydney test, I was in the paddo having a few beers, and I bumped into 4 Grimsby fans who were all out in their Grimsby shirts.
Good lads.
And I went over to have a chat with them about that night, and they just said it was just mental. They said every pub in Cleethorpes was open till 7 in the morning, and they just the whole place was just ran.
That's a weekday too. I love that.
People who hadn't been at the game came out for the drinking afterwards, and they just said it was just the next day. The whole place was a complete write-off because best football day they'd had in years and years. So
you're right about United being like an American sports event because they sing Country Road after every home win.
Oh,
I can't listen to that song ever again. It's like if I'm at some rodeo bar somewhere in the States anymore, I hear that song, I gotta walk outside.
Yeah, you talk about the new one or the John Denver one.
I don't know. Actually, it might be John Denver.
Country Roads or Country Road? Is it like the one with I'm going to take me home, Town Road? That one or take me home?
Take me home, West Virginia. Yeah, that one.
Yeah,
whatever it is. I don't want to know the lyrics because they all bloody sing it. But actually, good question. Actually, because we talk about crowds, but is there any particular memories that you have from matches you've been to, or even something you heard on the TV, like your funniest like city crowd moment in terms of maybe something a particular fan's done or something that our fans have responded to, or just overall just something that just still makes you laugh as hard as you did the first time you heard it?
I probably told you this. Well, I'll go. Mac is probably go for it. Probably told you one of the funniest games I ever went to was the last ever game at Elm Park when we lost 3-0. Just before we got relegated. Peter Beardsley had a shocker, and we were absolutely rubbish. And as a group of, firstly, I went there. A mate said, "Can you meet up my mate to go with you? He's in court, but he'll meet you at the station." And this guy comes running in. And when he said he'd been in court, he's a bloody barrister, and he was still running with his cape on and everything, taking his wig off, thankfully. So black cape to the floor and everything. He basically had a Tesco bag, put a pair of trainers on and a City shirt, over his shirt, chucked the cape and the wig and the bloody polished black shoes in this Tesco bag, and we go off to the game. And anyway, so we're getting bad. We're absolutely rubbish. And then this group of City fans suddenly started stargazing. So they turned back on the pitch for the second half, and they're all sitting there. I think they're a bit pissed, but they kept it going for about 20 minutes, looking up at the sky and going, Ursa Minor, and they're doing all this stargate. Everyone around them, a few songs, songs by small groups, sang at them about, stargazing and all, and they did this for the whole game. And then I get back to the station, and it was the most bizarre moment. I'm just standing there depressed, this other guy with me, and I'm about to get back on the train to London because I was living in London at the time. And then this guy goes to me, "We were shite." And I looked round, and it was Billy Boswell from Bread. And he was at the game with this woman who was in EastEnders at the time, who was a mank, who was a City fan.
Oh, yeah.
Hadn't been in them that long. So these two people I've been watching on Bread all my childhood, and then so I watched EastEnders the night before, stood next to me saying how shit City are on the platform. But the City fans, the ones who were doing the stargazing, I'd had a few beers by then. I was just pissing myself laughing because it was the most miserable, depressing game. And then there's some bloke, fuck all about stars talking about.
I'm assuming it's a night game, by the way.
Ursa Minor. Yeah. It was a night game. I can't remember, but I think it was quite late in the season, so I assume it was,
midweek.
3-0 on a Tuesday night, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was Tuesday or Wednesday night, definitely. And it was,
it's a shocker.
It was, it's like, I remember when Keegan took over, we got beaten 4-0 at West Brom, and most of the second half, most of the City fans were disco dancing on their chairs, facing away from the game, and let's all have a disco. And I'm, not sure whether I should be watching that or studying our new Australian superstar, Simon Colosimo, who made his debut that day, as City's defensive rock of the future.
Yeah, but, seriously misunderstood, by the way.
Yeah, there's been so many.
Right, we always said it.
Do you know what actually?
You need to have a sense of humour to Sports City, mate.
Yeah. Well, talking about Simon Colosimo, do you want to know that I found digging around some old archives? He actually, I don't know if you remember this, but he was on Remember the Dream, Roy and HG did, after every night of the Sydney Olympics.
Yeah.
They actually did an interview with Simon Colosimo. And if I can find it, I'll send you the link in that. But they had a good old chat. And I think at the time he was meant to be going to City, but he had no idea yet which club he was actually going to. Because I'm pretty sure we signed him in at the start of the 2000 season, I think it was. And he was on there, but he doesn't really allude to anything about him going to City. But yeah, it was actually quite a good interview in a way because I'm pretty sure he'd been playing in the group stages for the Socceroos or the Olyroos, I believe they're called, the Olympic team. So that was one. If I find the link, I'll send it to you. But look, Maka, what about you, mate? Anything? Sorry, mate.
Yeah, Simon Hill chatted to him a few times, and Colosimo apparently had incredibly fond memories of City. I'm not sure if City fans all had incredibly fond memories of him, but he did apparently have very fond memories of the club.
Yeah. All right.
It was a good culture.
Maka, any particularly stand out for you?
Mate, there's a couple for me. I remember the return game at Old Trafford after we beat United 5-1 in '89. That was a 1-1, and Ian Brightwell scored a belter. But Jim Leighton came out to the scoreboard end, and the whole of the City end just stood and applauded him in and started singing "One Jim Leighton." There's only one Jim Leighton, and he just did a little clap, and then he realised we're all taking the piss, and he just looked at us like we were the pits of the earth, but we were just cheering him so much because he'd had such a dog of a game in that 5-1 at Main Road. So that was a beauty. Yeah. But in that same game, this was the first time for me that Blue Moon had really resonated, because there was about 8 or 9 lads coming behind me, and they all had like cowboy hats on, but the sort you'd get in Blackpool on the prom made out of foam. And they all had, is it Whitefield?
Like those Texan, 10-gallon drum hats, whatever they're called. Yeah.
Is it Whitefield, Rich, near Salford? And they had Whitefield Cowboys written on the hats.
Whitefield's where Alan's from. That's up near Bury.
Anyway, Whitefield, isn't it?
Yeah. That's. But they all literally had big shiners and teeth missing, and they'd obviously been in huge fights, whether it was on some sort of stag do, and that's when the whole match they were just singing Blue Moon, 1 banana, 2 banana, 3 banana, 4, and they were just getting everyone at it. And for me, that was a brilliant memory. And then we were at Sheffield United away. I think I might have told this one before, but it's my favourite chant of all time. The whole Sheffield United are singing "We Hate Wednesday, We Hate Wednesday, We Hate Wednesday," and the Manchester City fans came back. Not one person had to think about it. We all sang it. We hate Saturdays. We hate Saturdays. We hate Saturdays. We hate Saturdays.
Yeah.
It's just class, mate. It's absolute. And the Sheffield United fans, fair play. That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
And there were some bizarre. Do you remember when the banana craze was going?
Yeah.
And then you get some weeks where,
because when did it really kick off? It was about 80, 85 or something. No, 80, 87 maybe.
It was a little bit later.
Maybe. Yeah,
I think we went
around that time when Imre Verratti was playing for Outlaw, wasn't he? And that's where it sort of started. Yeah.
Well, we went to Stoke away on Boxing Day, and I think that might have been 88 rather than 87, Rich. Yeah. And that I think we took 12,000 for Boxing Day.
Because my best memory of it, Mac, like from seeing the bananas in that era, was obviously when we had to get the point at Bradford. I remember seeing I remember seeing that the whole way section was just a sea of blue with yellow tops on top. Everybody just had bananas there. Yeah,
that was
89 for promotion.
May 89. Yeah. May 89.
So it was 89. Okay.
So it must have been Boxing Day.
What was funny about that, though? 88. Yeah, it was that season. People would just turn up with really ridiculous inflatables. Like most people were turning up with inflatable bananas, and then you had a few other teams who went like. West Brom started having inflatable thrushes, and like you had inflatable haddock from the Grimsby fans. They all had inflatable. But you'd get people turning up at City, and they'd obviously like in some shop somewhere in the world, and they'd find inflatable. So you'd get like very strange inflatable women and very strange inflatable animals, and just really weird inflatable stuff. And you're looking at that as a teenager and you're just pissing yourself because some of the stuff
didn't make any sense, mate.
Like I remember an inflatable fried egg.
Yeah.
Frankenstein, a fried egg. Some bloke turns up with this big inflatable fried egg. It's like
West Brom away, they had
holding it up.
About 6 of them carrying a paddling pool and a couple of geezers in it. There was that game at West Brom, though. It was a night game. Again, typical City. We had no shots on target. West Brom had 1 shot on target and scored from it. That was the whole highlight of the game. But everyone was watching the crowd. And one of my mates who's a West Brom fan, and he said not one of their crowd watched the game. They just watched the City fans. It was like watching It's a Knockout. And strangely enough, I took one of my mates at the time. This lad Clark, he's a good lad. Like he's very theatrical. He's very arty. Yeah. He reminds me a bit of Michael
Scene
McIntyre.
For the dramatic.
He's a thespian. And mate, he's only ever been to 1 football match in his life, and that was the game West Brom away with about 1,000 inflatables. So I just wondered to myself, does he think that's what happens at footy all the time? He was like, "What's going on?" I'm like, "Mate, we don't know. We've got no idea what's going on here tonight."
You do. You get classic fans. Like my brother has a really good mate who was a mate from school who he got into see. He grew up lived all his life in Oxfordshire, and my brother, got him into football and got him going along to City with him. And he ended up being, I think, a screenwriter and stuff. So he was very arty. I remember sitting next to him and my brother at Main Road, and he'd listen to classical music whilst watching City. So he's listening, you talk about the ballet on ice, and he's listening to the Nutcracker Suite or something. As City's playing, I'm just thinking the way we played in those days. Nowadays, you could probably play classical music behind City and it would fit perfectly. But in those days, it just didn't work. But he would sit there because he found the fans off-putting, so he'd listen to classical music really loudly. It's like, that's the most bizarre thing I've ever heard. But
yeah,
he'd have been better with the theme from Benny Hill.
Yeah,
or
exactly.
or Monty Python, always look on the bright side of life.
Monty Python.
What's the other one? What are they called again? The Italian Preservation Society or something like that?
Self-Preservation Society.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, Self-Preservation Society.
Yeah.
Well, mate, I'd tell you the chant I would like to see back at City more than anything, because it's good to hear the boys in blue at the end of the games now. You know, again, it's a hold with tradition, which I know a lot of people think the game's moving away from. I love that boys in blue, and in fact, when you go back to the Aguero moment after we'd settled and won that league, and they were making preparations for bringing the trophy out, they played that boys in blue, and I just thought back to when I first heard it. You know, walking in the North Stand and hearing that tune and thinking, but the chant I'd love us to bring back.
You're ready for the game.
Yeah, they've even played it at Wembley when we won cup finals as well.
Yeah, it's a brilliant, mate. It's a terrible song, but it's absolutely brilliant because it brings back the memories. But we've got more in the junior blues. So all these teams that are giving it that about you got some empty seats. If our crowd starts singing back to them, we've got more in the junior blues, that's telling them we're bigger and better than they are.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, we'll have that. We'll have that at Cheers. We'll start that at Cheers.
Yeah, I'm all for that.
I think what my favourite songs ever. There's one I used to remember they used to sing, which lyrics changed every week because people didn't. But do you remember Ooh Curly Whirly? And then they'd go on for about 20 minutes like Ooh Bounty Bar, Ooh Kit Kat, Ooh Mars Bar, and they'd be trying to think of chocolates. And they just going for about an hour.
Yeah.
One
that stands out for me for recent memory was and I think I've mentioned this before on the show, but it still makes me giggle when I think about it. I think we're playing Huddersfield in the cup, and I think it was Pep's first season. And I remember we went up there, we were playing those god awful orange kits. Remember the orange ones that had like a bit of blue and white lines through them and stuff like that. It was a bang average sort of kit. It was ugly, and then it was like a cup squad who barely played even on the training pitch together. So it was just this sort of really sort of boring sort of football, and that you could tell that both crowds were getting a bit bored with it basically, because Huddersfield just wanted to play league football and just try and stay up, and we were sort of not a shadow of the team that we are have been over the last few years. And I remember a few of the Huddersfield fans started having a bit of a back and forth because, as you know, like the John Smith and that, like the away fans are very, very. It's a proper old school ground. The away fans are pretty much immersed in two wings of home fans, and of course, basically, less than 5 minutes in, the Huddersfield fans already started singing like, "Where were you when you were shit?" So obviously, the first thing we did was like, "Well, hang on a sec. The last time we played Huddersfield, we put 10 past them." So he started singing "Scoring 10 when you were shit," and so he sung that for like a few minutes, and then the Huddersfield fans sort of like gave us an applause and that, and then they stopped and everything. And you're thinking at that moment, it's sort of like, okay, it's calm. Maybe some other fans will start singing something else. And then at the back of the away section, about 10 or 15 City fans, it was loud enough you could hear. It was like it was loud enough that it was a small group, but not big enough to get everybody going initially. They just sang, "You lucky bastards, it should have been 12." Which I just got such a good laugh out of. I love that, yeah.
That's classic. That is classic.
We used to have. Well, there used to be a bit more humour in the songs because we were, we were trying to keep ourselves amused on some pretty, in some pretty ropey places, in some pretty ropey weather, on some pretty ropey nights. Yeah, so it's I don't know, when we were just funny, and there'd be people there who were just doing funny stuff. Even a small group of them would be just singing some song. I mean, I remember at Wembley in the 2011, before the Stoke game, that someone started the Jelly and Ice Cream song, and they went for 20 minutes. Like, it was Jelly and Ice Cream, it was Have a Kebab, it was Bouncy Castle, it was Doing the Conga, and they were all like acting out. They were all off their heads. A lot of them, And then you had, just funny, absolute idiots.
Yeah,
not like
those.
To be honest,
I love how even those old stories that you just said from yesteryear, from like 80s and 90s, like there is still lots of it that still bleed through, even today. And it would be good to get back to a bit of nostalgia. And sometimes like an old song actually just it brings a lot out in young fan as well too, because I think when they hear something funny, they want to hear like, oh, where did that come from? What's the origins of that, basically? So
yeah, exactly.
I mean, everyone has their moments. My brother tried to threaten to kick me out of the MCG when we played Real Madrid there, because apparently I was singing "Who do you think you are kidding, Mr. Franco?" at the Real Madrid fans next to us. But,
So you didn't get kicked out for mentioning Franco, and yet our good friend Durga from the Melbourne Blues got kicked out because he told a non-City fan who was sitting in the row behind him. Oh, sorry, who was sitting in the row. Sitting in the row behind him to sit down because he stood up and started singing at halftime. Make that make sense.
Well, I was clearly funny.
Yeah.
You're a funny guy. You're a funny guy.
Yeah, it's nothing like being drunk and obnoxious, is there?
Yeah, especially when you can't remember it.
Yeah. Apparently, I was just tirading against them for like 20 minutes with all my different songs. But anyway, probably all from Dad's Army.
Well, we're 11 years now since we had a preseason in Australia, and look, I know we certainly feel like we're overdue for one. But let me ask you the question: Would you have a preseason this year if it meant we only brought the academy out because it is the World Cup? Obviously, would you still be happy with that, or would you rather wait a couple of years and hopefully it's not something that interferes with like a major international competition?
I mean, I just think it's very, very hard to come out to Australia. It's like Japan times 2. So financially, I think probably we can just make more money, elsewhere. And I think it's unlikely we'll come back. Possibly, if we got massive games in Seoul and Tokyo and, one in Sydney or Melbourne, maybe. But it does seem to me that it would have to be a summer where there's 3 months of absolute clear, and it would have to be, if they really wanted to come down somewhere and have, a 2-week training camp somewhere far away and play a few games. But, I'd be surprised if we come back in the near future. It's just too much money everywhere else, too many sponsors, too many big grounds, etc.
And Rich, the other thing too is like I've actually had this conversation with Tanya. For those who don't know, who she helps co-run the Sydney Blues with me here, but she's look, John mentions it too. He says, that's where the cash is at. But I've got to say, like, if you'd seen some of the turnout 2 years ago when we were in Japan, mate, it was incredible, and Korea as well. Korea was unbelievable. I think the problem is that we've got the organizing event companies over here that are willing to do it. We can do the marketing. That the problem is we're always going to be a small fish in a big pond compared to Asia, the rest of Asia.
I wouldn't be surprised to see the ladies team down here. I wouldn't be surprised if the women's team comes down.
Because obviously Mary Fowler's influence as well, and
I think Mary Fowler. I think come down as champions. I think women's football's big in Australia. I think they could probably get. So I wouldn't be surprised if the women's team comes down, and a few ambassadors come down with the women's team and they try and drum up some support. And that would be great. I mean, I watch the highlights of the team, and they are just smashing it this year. And there's some decent crowds, some really decent crowds at some of the games. And it's so I think that's the most likely that we'll have a get together. Watching Bunny and Mary and our other stars playing down here. But I'll be surprised if it's the lads for a few years.
I think that's actually a decent shout with the women's team because we've certainly had a few sort of promotional events involved with Manchester City. They've had clinics out here. I think Mary Fowler's had some sort of involvement as well. I think they coincide with like Matilda's fixtures as well too. But I could see that happening. I could see if initially I think if City were going to have any sort of person-to-person influence in terms of the club, I think probably the main target they'll probably look at is that demographic of like the younger women, ones who want to pursue a career in football and that and go from there basically. So I mean, we can always hope. You know, do hope that as time goes on, maybe they will realize that sometimes you just got to mix things up, and it might be good going to big markets and things like that too. But if you're going to keep going to big markets, then you run the risk of losing others. So we do hope that they can, at least find a compromise, maybe balance something out. Even if it's something as simple as just going to Perth, where we know you can fly direct from Europe or UK now. We live in that world now, basically.
Yeah,
so, it's something that we'd be perfectly fine with.
There's so many massive markets we've not been to, though. There's so many massive markets where we've got clubs where we've never been and we've never gone in. So for me, it's still, that still seems to me to be a long shot to Australia. But if you get a year,
I think the fact that they don't want to do China as well too. City have publicly said that they don't want to affiliate with China anymore. After that preseason they did about 5-6 years ago, I think it was before COVID. They basically said that just with all the logistics and just so much, so many like jurisdictional issues with China and the Chinese government, and hearing something from one people and then never hearing back from them again about things. It was an absolute nightmare. Yeah. They said, like when they had to play in Nanjing and Shanghai, and I think they said Shanghai was okay, but they said anything to do with like those mainland Chinese countries, they just had Chinese cities, and they had a lot of issues. And I think they're really going to stay away from. Maybe that might be the reason why they get Australia in the near future. But I think Japan's such a huge market that they can tap into, and they already have tapped into. I think we're always going to find ourselves second fiddle to that.
I think the most likely way they'll come to Australia is if the USA makes itself somewhere where City decide not to go. At the moment, I think they'd still happily go to the USA. But if if there's problems with us at the World Cup, if there are, problems affecting players or problems getting visas for players, and any number of things, which the way America's going at the minute, in 12 months' time, it's quite possible. I think if that sort of thing happened, then, I think then they would have to come to Asia every summer. And I think if that happened, given that other clubs would then be going to Asia, because then, if the USA becomes a problem, then there'll be
Liverpool will do a lot.
30 or 40 clubs who go there who will be coming over. So then
Liverpool will be doing more Japan tours in the future, because I know they just did one, but they'll be doing more in the future because one of their major sponsors now is Japan Airlines. So so they're really tapping into that market big time now. I mean, obviously we've had the long-standing affiliation, obviously, with Yokohama Marinos, and Nissan's been the long-term sponsor as well. But Neil makes a good point here. I think also too. Australia and New Zealand need to share a World Cup sometime soon. Yeah, mate, I think that'll go a long way in terms of. Yeah,
that's the best comment, because if everything fell over in the States tomorrow, and you said they need somewhere else to host the World Cup, Australia and New Zealand could do it within 8 weeks of planning. We're ready. And unfortunately, as we know, money talks, and the time difference, the sponsors don't want it here. But we could handle it tomorrow. And we saw it with the Olympics in 2000, 26 years ago. If anyone remembers the Olympic final, they had 100,000 people in the stadium for a midday kickoff. 108,000 actually.
And it was Spain against Cameroon. I remember that final. Yeah.
Everyone cleared out, and by 5 o'clock they were ready to do it again. And they had the Olympic finals night, the same night, 108,000 people again in the same venue. This country does things differently. And it's I mean, we've had the Women's World Cup, we've got the Women's Asian Cup in March here.
We've had the Men's Asia Cup. We've got another Olympics coming up in 6 years' time in Brisbane.
In 6 years' time.
Yep.
So we've got the Olympics here.
And the thing is, they've also said they've had news articles talk about Australia hosting, and they say, "Oh, why don't they try and apply for 2038?" The problem is FIFA doesn't allow certain confederacies or whatever the name is. They can't apply. I think you can only apply again after 1 or 2 World Cups have passed. So if Saudi Arabia has it in 2034, then we technically can't apply for another one, I think, until 2042. But the fact is that it's getting more and more difficult now, because countries don't want to fork out the billions and billions of dollars for it, that we might actually do have a chance of maybe getting 2038. We don't know yet.
Australia's got the grounds. got the grounds and the infrastructure to have it tomorrow.
But the problem is that FIFA can't rinse us for more money because we have the infrastructure in place.
Yeah.
They'd rather rinse developing countries because they will fork out the billions to buy new stadiums and put their country front and center.
I don't know if it's that. I think Australia's got two massive problems. One is the timing, like the time of day, and
that's the biggest
sponsorship. Because TV, I don't think FIFA has any issues that are stadia already. They've given World Cup to the USA, which has every stadia ready. It's about TV, and then the other one we've got is the AFL needs to put its head in its place because the AFL did everything they could to scupper the last World Cup coming to Australia because Hawthorn against Richmond is more important than England against Argentina, and because it put me off. Put me off.
I mean, depending on the AFL game, you get just as much a crowd than you would. You get just about the same numbers at the MCG, wouldn't you?
You wouldn't. You'd get a miles beat. You get sellout. And
I'm saying depending on who would be playing, you could get just as big a crowds.
But
I'm not defending AFL.
I remember, and this is the biggest thing that holds Australian sport back. Is the first day me and my mate arrived in Australia on a minibus getting from Brisbane Airport. I can't remember where we were going, and we just got over from Britain. We're like 22, and there's two girls from Melbourne, so we started chatting to them, and then one of them, we're talking about the World Cup and stuff like that, and one of them, in all seriousness, said the AFL Grand Final is much bigger than the World Cup. So me and Luke,
to them, yes, but no.
Yeah,
the rest
and
of
we're
the
like,
world,
no. They obviously got the "are you simple" look from the two of us, and they genuinely believed that the AFL Grand Final was the biggest thing in sport. And we're like, this is a sport where no one outside Australia, apart from a few Aussies in London and a few other places, no one has even heard of this sport. Yeah, no one watches it that much in half of Australia. I mean, in America, in Australia's biggest state, it's a minority sport. But they think it's more important to keep the MCG for those games than it is to get a World Cup. Yeah. All the other sports in Australia said, we'll stop. We know the World Cup is the biggest thing, apart from that, along with the Olympics in sport. We will stop rugby league, rugby union, football. We will stop. We'll have the World Cup and then we'll go back. Yeah. Everyone else is fine. But the AFL, no, we can't stop. No, you can't have the Adelaide Oval or the MCG. Like, it was embarrassing for Australia. It embarrassed Australia. And so,
to get one vote, one vote.
If you wanted to make the AFL shit themselves, I think the government could turn around and say, all right, if you want to have your season, move all the AFL clubs down to Melbourne. They can play at Marvel and MCG for a month and a half. And
the World Cup goes to every.
Then they shit themselves,
because you could have
New Zealand, Perth, Adelaide, Sydney, Brisbane. You could host games in Newcastle. Newcastle's perfectly good for football.
Every AFL team moves to Melbourne. You have the AFL. You can watch it 10 games a week. Perth, Adelaide, Sydney, Brisbane, Newcastle. Build a stadium down in Tassie. They can have the World Cup.
Start your season a month early. Simple. Start your season a month early. Finish it 2 weeks later.
Yeah.
Simple.
And you show the whole of the world what a big sporting city Melbourne is.
I know we said at the top of the show we didn't want to talk about cricket, but didn't they move the Ashes like a few months forward or back because of the Olympics in London or something? Didn't they do something like that?
Yes. Some
sure they did.
Things move. Things move. Every other sport, would move except maybe gridiron. Maybe American football is arrogant enough to think it's bigger than
everywhere except Chapel Street.
Every other sport knows that there's the Olympics, there's a Football World Cup, and they dwarf anything else. And to scupper a country, to scupper the billions that would have brought into Australia, the attention it would have brought it, and the joy it would have brought to millions of Australians, to scupper that for a sport that no one outside 2 or 3 cities in the world finds relevant, it is just nuts. And I'm not anti-AFL. I watch AFL. I actually think it's quite an enjoyable sport. I think you get some great atmospheres. I'm not
a very good sport. Respect it. Yeah,
it's just the parochialism of the of the administrators, and you know, to think that, because I actually reckon most AFL fans would think, oh yeah, we'll have a month off, we'll have the World Cup in Melbourne. I reckon your average Melbourne AFL fan would think that was a brilliant trade, but there was,
can you imagine? Yeah, World Cup games in Melbourne across those 3 stadiums would just be amazing as well.
Yeah.
But hey, mate, they don't see it. They don't see it. So what can you do?
Anyway,
I think the other thing too is the AFL and even the other major Australian sports are just terrified. They know that if we get a World Cup on our shores, everybody will get into football. Coming out of it, everybody will get into football, and that's and it's terrified them for decades because they know football in Australia is a sleeping giant.
Well, deep down, you know, I love a lot of sports. I love a lot of sports, but there is nothing that compares to football. There's nothing where you just go anywhere with any, you know, all you need is a wall and yourself and a ball, and you can play football.
Wall and a ball.
2 people, you know, or you know, whatever else you've got. It's just an amazing sport, and there's no sport that brings the world together in the same way. Not even close. Like basketball is probably the closest nowadays that you can go just about anywhere in the world and see basketball now, but there's nothing else close. And you know, wherever
Sundays on SBS, we had a show called The World Game, and that's exactly what it was.
Yeah, wherever you go in the world.
Rest in peace, Les Murray and Johnny Warren, legends.
Johnny Warren,
legends. Yeah, absolute legends.
Jumpers for goalposts.
Anyway, we've done we're close to an hour and a quarter, but we've done some really good sidetracking there of like old days City and talking about sports in Australia. But before we close up, I'll quickly go back to Neil Haystock's
before we close up.
Sorry, mate.
We've got to talk about next goal wins before, you know, the greatest childhood games when you were 10-0 down and it's next goal win.
We've covered a lot of bases today, but look, I did hear
talking about Kevin Keegan.
We might save that for next week. Actually, that's a good shout because actually it was Kevin Keegan. It was Kevin Keegan's City squad that actually got me into watching City. So, just quickly what Neil Haystock said. Appreciate the comment there. Martin did talk on the late night chat a few hours ago about Bernardo possibly extending. He said, "Would you lads extend? Do you think Rodri stays or goes?" Thought this is it's a good conversation.
I'd have Bernardo.
Nice little one to close out on there.
Bernardo, 1 more year tells me that Pep's staying 1 more year. The only thing they've got to negotiate with is Bernardo's wife. Another year in the rain. Come on.
He looks. You know what? I think Bernardo looks as happy as he's looked. I think he has played some of his best performances in years in the last month or 2. I reckon he's had some absolute cracking games. His energy's back, his smile's back, his shithousery's back. You know, I think Bernardo's back. So I'm watching him on the pitch, and I'm not seeing a player who I think wants to be going somewhere else. So, you know, I said to Martin about a week ago, Bernardo and Pep goes together. I don't think Pep wants to do a year without Bernardo, and I think think they could easily be persuaded to stay. And you know, Bernardo is, you know, he's now comfortably played more games for Pep than any other player. And you know, I can see him. You know, he's important today. And on the flip side, the fact Rodri hasn't signed a new contract when he's coming back from the injury he has, you know, you think he'd be desperate to get in a contract. Maybe all that sitting around for years made him think he wants to go back and have a few years in Spain. I don't know.
But who's going to sign him? Real Madrid. Don't they hate him? Don't they hate him?
I'd be disappointed. I'd be really disappointed if he went there. Just because of the way they treated him, I thought it was disgusting. But you know,
I mean, the list is pretty small in terms of clubs he'd go to. I mean, the only one I could possibly think of is Bayern.
Yeah, that's good.
But I'd only consider the thought of doing business with Bayern if they're willing to send that Pavlovic the other way, because he looks very, very good. I
was thinking Elise, but do you really think he'd want to go?
Oh, no, I'm talking like for like, but if you're talking about just
with the personality Rodri's like, I don't know. I think it's City or Spain.
Yeah,
but I don't know why he couldn't, you know, financially, if they could get rid of De Jong, he could go to Barca. I'd just be disappointed if he went to Real Madrid because of the way they treated him. Atletico, you know, he could always go back to Atletico.
I mean, we know Atletico have got money to spend now after the money they spent on Alvarez. So,
yeah,
I mean, if they really wanted him back,
Rodri doesn't spend any money, I don't think. I mean, he wears modest clothes, drives a modest car. He seems
very frugal.
Anything expensive. He's probably
half his salary goes to charity as well.
Yeah, he's probably saved 99% of his earnings already. So I don't know if he'd be motivated solely by money. He might be motivated for somewhere nice to settle down and have a couple of kids back in Spain, so they grow up Spanish. I don't know.
I'd have him give him the captaincy next year. Give him a mosaic or a statue. That'll make him stay an extra year. He doesn't need the money. He doesn't need the sunshine. Anyway, boys, 4:30.
Money over sunshine.
4:30 Sunday and then 3:30 Monday. Big kickoffs. Come on, Chelsea.
Yeah, some big stuff coming up this weekend. Anyway. John's just said, Rich, just talking about yesteryear too. Don't forget you had 2 jumpers, next goal wins. Your mum shouting your government name are the old days.
That's classic. Classic, John.
And John's also said, is he not an Atletico fan? I thought he was Villarreal. Not just because he came up through their academy and that too, but I'm sure he was a Villarreal fan.
Yeah, I don't know. He was that Atletico.
I can't remember.
You know what I remember then, and this is horrible when you think about it, but I remember, we'd go down and play football in Fog Lane Park, and apart from not trying to have our ball nicked by the kids from Burnage, probably bloody Liam, he would have been out there. But he's probably got about 3 of my footballs at home actually. But apart from that, I just remember people try and kick the ball in the dog turd and then put it across to try and get someone. I mean, a couple of mates. They do that. They try and put the ball into it and then get someone to head it. That's why I've always been terrible in the air. I spent my whole childhood trying to avoid ever heading the ball.
Don't they still do that at Old Trafford?
I think so, yeah.
They put the dead rats on the ball. They put the dead rats on the ball.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Scruffs.
I don't know. But guys, look, we'll close it out anyway because it is getting a bit late over in this part of the world. Big thanks to everybody who was involved in the chat as well. So big up to yourselves. Just before we close too, I did have this comment from Dash as well too. Just saying, he mentioned last night he's doing a university charity project for teenage cancer. If you wish to donate, the link is there, crowdfunder.co.uk. Just follow that link there. And if any contributions, obviously, would be greatly appreciated. So big up yourself, Dash, and appreciate the work you're doing for that organization there. So good stuff, mate. Really happy with that. Yeah, as Macca just said, big match coming up this weekend, Ellen Road, of course, and then we're back to every 3-4 days with Forest midweek. We will probably be back same time next week as well, too. Probably do a preview for the Forest game. Who knows, between now and then, maybe some things have dramatically changed in the league, hopefully for the better, of course. But guys, look, good to be back on Blues Down Under. Macca, good to have you back. Rich, as always, I'll see you on Thursday night chat here. I believe they do have Blues Down Under, not Blues Down Under, Stateside Blues. Your North American and Canadian friends will be on. I believe that'll be Wednesday night UK time as well too. So I think Martin's already posted links to that too, so keep an eye out for that. But even though we're only playing every 7 days, still plenty to look forward to here on the Mancunian Way. And we'll look forward to seeing you in the coming days. Very happy to have Blues Down Under back. Macca, an absolute pleasure, mate. Good to see you again.
See you, mate. Thanks a lot.
And Rich, always a pleasure. Never a chore.
Yeah. See you.
Thank you very much, guys. And until next time, up the Blues.
It's been emotional.
Go on, City.
Come on, City.